Emaswati are cognizant and appreciative of the importance of Ingwar ceremony. Therefore, it is expected that other national activities will be put on hold in respect of this sacred period for all Emaswati. We urge Emaswati to remain calm and united as we prepare for the dialogue. May I remind the nation that the Constitution is still effective and operative in the Kingdom. Therefore, it will neither be suspended nor set aside, even as the dialogue process begins. Should there be a need for any amendment, this will be done in full compliance with the provisions of the Constitution. We are, however, disappointed that some sections of society are already voicing out some misgivings about this dialogue and putting forward preconditions even before the process starts in earnest. We have heard that some people are agitating for the formation of an interim government. The Kingdom of Eswatini is a sovereign state with a legally constituted government structure headed by His Majesty and assisted by three arms of government, namely the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. All these structures are legally and constitutionally established and will remain functional for dialogue to take place unconditionally. Under no circumstances can an interim government therefore be formed, and any assertion is misplaced and has no basis in fact and in law. There are also misconceptions that the team from SADC, organ on politics, defense and security, Troika, that was in the country last week and in early July had a prescription for Eswatini. We wish to state that SADC's role is to mediate and offer advice, but not to prescribe any direction for the country. Therefore, SADC or any international body cannot lead the process of dialogue, as it is a preserve for Emaswati as their constitutional right. We have also made aware that there is a proposed protest action slated for tomorrow. One wonders what the purpose of this march is, given that His Majesty has already committed to a dialogue. We would expect all Emaswati to heed the call for dialogue and stay away from the streets, as this has led to violence and intimidation. The nation will recall that government suspended the physical delivery of petitions to Tinkundla centers, and more recently, the issuance of permits for protest actions in towns. May we be clear that the government is not against the delivery of petitions per se, but the fact that these actions have resulted in blockade of streets, looting, destruction of property, and closing of business by force. This is unacceptable, a level of violence, and the imitation has infringed on the right of ordinary people who are not part of the protest action and also place their lives in a precarious position. Government's role is to protect the rights and lives of all Emaswati and residents of Eswatini. We have an obligation to protect both the bystanders and the protesters, but also to maintain law and order. Therefore, the banning of petitions was a necessary step, as these activities had turned violent to the detriment of everyone. I wish to take this opportunity to also remind workers that employers have the right to take action against workers who abscond from work. Sanctioning the no work, no pay rule may be one of the options, but there are other disciplinary measures that at the disposal of the employer that can be effected. We recently had a workshop with members of parliament where I used the opportunity to request them to also condemn the actions of some of their constituents, which include the abuse of students for selfish reasons, as well as vandalism and destruction of property. I am happy that MPs have committed to individually address these constituents on the matter. What is clear, however, is that members of parliament now fear for their lives, whereas in the past they feared that constituents would not vote for them back into parliament. One wonders if this is the democracy people are calling for. A democracy where people live in fear of being attacked for their beliefs. Why are the so-called pro-democracy leaders condoning this? Even as we prepare for the dialogue, the question is, will people be free to express their opinions if it is contrary to the so-called pro-democracy? Emaswati in general and through the members of parliament have raised concerns regarding the use of excessive force by members of the security forces, in particular the police, in dealing with protesters. Police are trained to deal with security issues. They are expected to use proportionate means to deal with any situation that confronts them when executing their duties, which calls for the use of reasonable force to deal with imminent danger to their own lives, society in general, and private property. As a general principle, government strongly condemns violence, incitement, threats, and intimidation that seem to have taken hold of our society, much against our values for peace and respect under any circumstances. In conclusion, Eswatini is a nation that respects the rule of law and thus guided by the constitution and the procedures and structures. Therefore, in the implementation of any proposed changes to the national discourse,